Hi, everyone. I know you've been really upset because we haven't had a video in a while, so I want you to be happy again. So here's a quick one. I'm not going to go into any tangents from any of my other books, which may upset you, but I'm going to try to keep it brief. But though it's brief, it's a really, really important, significant event because there's a lot of effects to things we're going to learn later about. And this is all about the Missouri Compromise. So we've done all this map work lately, and we've talked about adding the Northwest Ordinance up here and stuff. But now, when this chunk wants to become Missouri, okay, on the Mississippi River, all sorts of important places, becomes an issue. So, we learned earlier about the War of 1812, and there was a bit of national spirit at that time, but national unity was still sort of fragile, and it continued to be at this time. So, what happens here is ever since 1789, when we have a new constitution, politicians were trying to keep the issue of slavery, which was very divisive and explosive, away from political life. They sort of thought early on that it was going to naturally dissolve, but that wasn't happening. Politicians realized that slavery could jeopardize national unity. And by 1819 and 1820, these fears are apparent because Missouri applies for admission to the Union as a state, and now the idea of slavery expanding becomes a big topic. So the Northwest Ordinance of 1787 limited slavery north of the Ohio River. So here's the Northwest Ordinance. Here's the Ohio River. Okay. And it allowed expanding slavery to the south. So down here, okay, slavery was going on, but not really up here. Congress didn't really say anything about slavery's place in this huge Louisiana territory out here. So, when Thomas Jefferson added this, they weren't really thinking of, would this big addition to our country divide the nation over slavery? So this becomes a debate. And here we have Rufus King. Rufus King was a volunteer in the Revolutionary War. He was part of our Continental Congress. He signed the Constitution. He was GW's minister to France. He was even going to run as a Federalist for president. So he is one of our founding fathers that you probably don't know much about. And at this point, he's a senator from New York. And in the Senate, he demanded that Missouri prohibit slavery before entering the Union. So think of this. He was involved in all of our early American history. And now, by like 1820, decades after the Constitution, he saw how this issue unfolded. His proposal triggered this fierce debate over Congress's authority. Can Congress prevent the spread of slavery? Is that something they have the power to do in all these new territories? Southerners were adamant that this area west of the Mississippi remain open to their slaves, what they considered to be property. But obviously, many people didn't agree with that. The South was determined to maintain an equal balance between slave states and free states in the Senate so that their ideas would be protected. By 1819, the North had a much more growing population with the Industrial Revolution. And at this point, it had a 105 to 81 advantage. Was it this part? Yes, a 105 to 81 advantage in the House. Equality in the Senate was its really only way to protect its interests, so it didn't want that balance to be undone. Northerners vowed to keep the trans-Mississippi West open to free labor, which many of its people there would take advantage of. That means closing it to slavery. So for about 3 months, Congress debated the issues. During much of the time, free blacks listened to Northern anti-slavery speeches, and they would attend the House gallery. Jefferson, who is now pretty old, no longer president, writes, "The momentous question, like a fire bell in the night, awakened and filled me with terror." Right? They know the slavery issue is coming to a head. Northerners were alarmed. The Missouri question, wrote an editor of a New York newspaper, involves not only the future character of our nation, but the future weight and influence of the free states. If now lost, it is lost forever. So this is really significant. It's not just a simple political thing. But by the end, a compromise prevailed. Missouri gained admission as a slave state, while Maine, which was formerly part of Massachusetts, came in as a free state to counterbalance it. There's also a line that's drawn. Okay, this is a latitude line on a globe, right? 3630, and it went all the way to the Rocky Mountains. You should have that on your map from the other day. Okay, it divided the lands that would be open to slavery here from those that would not up here. It wouldn't be long, however, before the problem of slavery's expansion would set North and South even more violently, not just politically against each other. So, some effects. Years later, President Polk's Secretary of State, James Buchanan, proposed extending that line past the Rockies all the way to the Pacific. People sort of didn't address it because they didn't want to address issues of morality or congressional authority. Does Congress have the power to do it? Is popular sovereignty even an issue? Can the people of each state decide if they have slaves or not? We'll bring this up later again with Lincoln. It later is ignored with things like the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which we'll learn about, and we'll also learn later about the Dred Scott case. And that case ruled that the Missouri Compromise was unconstitutional because Congress didn't even have the authority to ban slavery in a territory. So that's judicial review, right? So know the geography, okay? Know the Rocky Mountains, know the Mississippi, know the line of latitude, know free, slave. Know Missouri came in as a slave state, Maine as a free state, and know the symbolic effects of how this issue of slavery is now intensifying sectionalism within the nation. All right. See you later.